Hello, week seven or part 7 of my wasting hours in isolation and lockdown with a camera. And this is my 6th video for you guys, and it's starting to feel a little bit more natural. It's not as uncomfortable looking into a camera, and I'm not tripping over my tongue quite as much as I was at the beginning. So I'm getting a bit more used to it. And I'm going to start doing a lot more of these videos, I think, for the future, covering all sorts of different subjects as well. So if you want to keep in touch with this, hit the subscribe button. If you want me to cover something, comment under the videos and I'll try and cover it in the future for you guys. So for this week, what I want us to look at is the idea of reflections. Now, reflections are a great source of inspiration for many photographers, and you see it in all sorts of genres, from portraiture to street to wildlife. It's a great thing to play with, and there's a lot of inspiration to be found around the home, in our gardens and on our doorsteps. We've had a bit of rain last week, and I think there's a bit of rain forecast for this week. So whenever there's water, there's a lot of options and possibilities when it comes to reflections, puddles, you know, shiny surfaces. There's a lot of possibilities, and so it's a great week to start looking at reflections. So in terms of, we can take this interpret this in any way. We can do some straight up formal portraits, you know, looking in a bathroom mirror, makeup mirror, reflections in windows. We can start doing more street stuff, looking at reflections from the cars, wing mirrors, things like that as well. You can kind of play with the part reflection, so you can look into a scene through a window and use part the reflection to create a more intriguing composition. There's literally lots and lots of possibilities here. Even just looking around this attic room, I can see reflections in the lens. I can see door handles with great reflections, you know, even just things like spoons with concave and convex reflections. There's a lot of reflections there that you can play with. I think sunsets and sunrises are always really interesting situations to play with reflections as well, particularly if you're not doing much in post-production with your photographs. And if you're getting up and doing sunrises right now, bonus points to you as well, because we're looking at about 5:30 in the morning kind of sunrises at the moment, I think. But sunrise and sunsets are classic kind of situation where you have this really strong contrasty sky and no light falling on the land in front of you. So you usually got a very silhouetted foreground, and that, unless you're doing more specialist techniques, it can be very hard to get a really good scene for sunrises and sunsets. Now with reflections, you have that opportunity, without doing too much work to it, to brighten up the foreground and create more interesting foregrounds. So whether it's a puddle, whether it's a window or a reflection, whatever it is, using reflections can be a great way to create a more interesting and more satisfying sunsets and sunrises. It's a great thing to practice, so I encourage everyone to give that one go at least. Now in terms of playing with your camera and experimenting technically and with your settings, you can play around with depth of field. Is a great thing to play around with when you're doing reflections. So you can use a shallow depth of field, so that low F number, to create a more dreamlike, atmospheric, kind of abstract reflections that can look really intriguing and interesting. Or you can go for a more sort of classical landscape where you use a large depth of field, something like f16, and you kind of get the reflection in focus and the scene surrounding it in focus. So there's a lot of, and both, just changing that kind of technique can create very different feeling images as well. So there is literally a lot of things to explore with reflections, and something for everyone. So I hope it gives everyone the chance to feel inspired, but also gives them the chance to experiment as well. So the more experimental you get, the more you're going to start learning and the more inspired you're going to feel as well. So hopefully that's something that you guys can get excited about. I'm excited about it. I'm going to do some reflections as well, because I just love the idea of playing around with this. It's a great thing to explore, and it's going to waste away the hours easily this week. So take that with you, enjoy that. As always, send me the pictures, share the pictures on social, tag me in them or whatever. I'd love to see them, and I will be back next week with some more ideas for you and some more inspiration.